Many things might come to your mind when you think of the word seed. For instance, the word seed might remind you of a plant or a flower, or maybe even the conception of a newborn baby animal or child. In most cases, the word seed reminds us of beauty and of the promises of nature's life-sustaining abilities. One might argue that these natural aspects of existence are in fact inherent, belonging to us all as a part of one human family. When I lived in Maui, I would commute twice a week to the north side of the island to attend college at the university. On my way, it began to be customary to see people congregating on the side of the road facing a facility-like building. They would hold up large signs and chant things fervently like, "Oh no, GMO," or "Right to know, GMO." I was immediately motivated to find out more about this issue that had begun to take hold of my community. Upon doing some research, I learned that the protesters were speaking out against something termed genetically modified organisms, or genetically modified food. I also found that this conflict between the consumers and the GMO companies was not just a local one, but one that was global in scale. In fact, on May 24th, 2014, a third global march against Monsanto took place all over the world and called for the dissolution of the GMO company and the end of GMO foods altogether. It is important for us as individuals and as a part of a community to educate ourselves on this topic because it's one that's going to affect us for the rest of our lives. There are some important and basic things to understand about GMO food in order to get a sense of where you stand on this issue. First, how food is genetically modified and who does it. And next, what are some of the pros and cons discussed around this topic? So what exactly are GMOs, or genetically modified organisms? Well, according to the Institute of Responsible Technology, a genetically modified organism is the result of a laboratory process where genes from the DNA of one species are artificially forced into the genes of an unrelated plant or animal. The foreign genes may come from bacteria, viruses, insects, animals, and even humans. In other words, this is a process that completely changes the DNA of a species by combining it with that of another. A list of the leading companies developing and creating GMO seeds can be found at sourcewatch.org. Also known as the Big Six, they are as follows: Monsanto, Pioneer Hybrid International, which is a subsidiary of DuPont, Syngenta Ag, based in Switzerland, Dow AgroSciences, which is a subsidiary of Dow Chemical, and BASF out of Germany, and Bayer Crop Scientists also out of Germany. It is important to note that these multi-million-dollar companies are actually known for the manufacturing of chemicals, and Monsanto currently holds the largest GMO market in the entire world. Now that we have a basic knowledge about how GMOs are created and who creates them, we can move on to elaborating in some ways concerning the reasons why the world has taken such a massive and direct interest in this topic. Firstly, let's cover some of the advantages claimed by GMO supporters. Genetic modification allows scientists to inculcate a desired trait into a crop type. Examples of this can be a characteristic trait that can withstand harsher weather conditions, for example, maybe a drought. Also, to be uninfected by certain plant funguses and viruses, or to be immune to infestation by insects or other organisms. In other words, the insects wouldn't take interest in finding that as their food source any longer. Also, people and government officials that are inspired by the technology say that they intend to use the process to solve the world hunger crisis. So this is a big deal, and according to these arguments, the positive global implications would be an amazing accomplishment. But what of the more worrisome outcomes? Millions of people are outraged by this progression all over the world. An article published by Livestrong.com assessed the findings made by Brown University concerning this subject. They warn that GMO crops might infiltrate non-GMO crops by cross-pollination. So what is this? This is a huge deal. It opens up the ecological arena, so to speak, for man-made organisms to create superorganisms. These superorganisms can compete and potentially extinct all other natural plant life and crops, which kind of sounds like a scary sci-fi movie. Also, there are huge concerns regarding human health. This technology is completely experimental, so the long-term effects have not been calculated, and there have been some confrontations about the research that has been published regarding them. Another concern is the possibility for further antibiotic-resistant side effects. Many of you may be aware of MRSA, the MRSA staph infection, and infections like that, bacteria infections that are completely immune to antibiotics, making it very, very difficult for people to overcome these illnesses. So that's another thing that they are concerned about. New allergen susceptibilities. These are also a concern. So as you can see, there are a lot of things to take into account regarding genetically modified organisms. People all over the globe are protesting against genetically modified food. The idea that these large chemical companies may take over your food production completely may be an alarming thought to you. Or maybe you feel like the biotechnology is a step in the right direction. Whichever the case, I hope that understanding how genetic modification is done and why so many have taken such a great interest in the subject will at least give you enough insight to motivate you to learn more about this and to involve yourself. Thank you.